What is up, Facebook world? It's also on YouTube. So, what's up, everyone? Scott Brent coming to you from Colorado Springs, almost Tuesday morning. So, got a couple more days, and then Wednesday's here. So, actually, one more day, and then presentation time at 1 Million Cups. Excited to do that, and just to share our message, myself and Miriam, just to talk about what we're doing, how we got there, and just give them more insight to who we are and whatnot. But I have to laugh because it's just very interesting when you look and come across things that you should know. Maybe you don't know because you're not being present, or you're not doing the work, or you're just not challenging yourself. And so some people don't like to challenge themselves because it forces them to push out of their comfort zone. Or you got to question yourself. You got to question what you've been told. And hopefully this video is a little bit clearer. I'm not as close, so I think it should be clear. So we'll be fine. We'll find out and whatnot. But I came across a quote here, and it's one of those things when you look at it, you start thinking about this, and it states that the pain will leave once it is finished teaching you. And so it's one of those things because I look at my divorce aspect, and that was a very painful lesson. And it's one of those things that I'm grateful that it took place. It took some time for the lesson to leave, and I'm still learning and whatnot, but I knew it was something that was needed just from what I experienced and understanding and talking to other individuals. It's one of those things that going through that process, people feel like they're on their own island. They believe that they're the only ones that are going through it. They don't feel like they have anybody to lean into, and just to have that tribe, the safe space and whatnot. And so I've had a couple of individuals that have spoken in regards to my passion, what I'm going to accomplish and bring forward to individuals, is that space of working with individuals, divorced gentlemen in particular, that is something that's needed. And so today did a business education piece at Monday Morning Networking here in Colorado Springs at Old Chicago's. And it's I have to laugh because you start listening to people express what they thought of you, or they didn't know that this was part of who you were and whatnot. And I just look at it and I'm like, that's that person's lens that they're seeing things through, whatever's taking place. And so I was told that I'm like an onion with many layers, which is cool. You know what? Love it. Hey, what's up, Mike? Hopefully everything's going well for you. And then I had another individual that she had stated that she thought that I was just a loud individual, and I am loud. So I already know that. But she's like, I just thought you were a loud individual that just didn't really care. And so it's funny to hear that, and then just hear people's perception. And then I sit there and I'm like, no, that's a person's lens. That's how they see the world and whatnot. And sometimes it's that first impression piece that people allow to kind of dictate what takes place. So they're looking at the cover of the book, and that's what they're reading. They're not opening up the book and whatnot. But it was just powerful, to hear the response, and just the reception that people had in regards to what I was speaking on and sharing and whatnot. And so one thing that I would be mindful about, and this is a 6-phase process. So if you'd like the information on the 6-phase process, reach out to me. I'll share it with you. This way you can utilize it. But in the 6-phase process, one thing to be mindful about is compassion. And so the individual that was talking about this part of the phase had stated that looking and speaking to men and women, one of the top attractive qualities for individuals is that of compassion and kindness. But they've also found through studies that with compassion and kindness with individuals that have that quality, it actually slows down the aging process. And so it's one of those things that it's an interesting thing to know. But it's taking the time to grow and learn and work and do what you need to. And so during the presentation today that I accomplished was talking about foundational values. And that's just something that I've talked a little bit about. And two things that stuck out that I had brought up to the conversation piece was, first part is that your soul, so inside your soul, who you are, your soul's experience on earth is not meant for hard work and toil. Even though a lot of people believe that, they believe that the only way they're going to get to where they need to is through hard work. But that's a myth that really traps people, and it makes people stuck because they believe that's all they can do. And so work is not work. The work that you're doing is about your growth and progression and whatnot. And I've talked about this too, that it's a very simple formula, but success equals growth. And so it's your success is going to be dependent upon how you look at things. And that was something that I brought up, was the fact that you can ask 100 people what success means to them. You're going to get 100 different answers. But if you ask 100 people, the same 100 people, what failure is, you're going to get this one answer from everybody. There might be some variations, but it's going to be the same thing. And so it's just one of those unique perspective pieces that you look at it, how people can have different determinations for success, but then failure is looked at as a bad thing. And honestly, failure is a way to learn. Failure is a way to grow. Failure, you're either winning or you're learning, and failure is just a learning process. Truly, failure occurs as if you give up and don't keep pushing forward. And so that's something that you have to understand, that if something takes place, you got to get up and keep pushing forward. And sometimes it sucks and it's not the easiest, because you may have gotten kicked in the teeth and got punched in the face quite a few times, and you're like, forget this. I don't want to get punched anymore. I don't want to lose any more teeth. I just feel like I'm a punching bag. But you got to keep pushing forward, because if you quit, that's not going to speed up the process to get to where you want to be at. Quitting is not going to be the answer. So you've got to continue to go. But this also comes into play as you're going. You may have to make the pivots. You might have to make the adjustments. So make the adjustments, make the pivots, and learn from whatever's going on. But keep going and forward. And so the pivots, the adjustments might need to occur to get you back on track, or get you on the track that you need to go. But I've talked about foundational values as the item that we really need to nail down. And your foundational values come from who you are at your core, and you can't BS your foundational values. You can't say, well, one of my foundational values is courage. But if that's nothing that's resonated with you, or it's not something that sticks, it's not a foundational value. And there's some different things that you need to do to figure out what your foundational values are. And if you'd like that information, reach out to me. I'll send that information over so you can go through that process and find out what your true foundational values are that are driving you and that are going to help you build a life that is true to yourself. And so for myself, one of the big situations that really occurred, this kind of got buried. It's never anything that I've thought about, but when I was doing the exercise, I almost killed my younger sister. When I was 10, she was 3. I almost killed her. And so for whatever reason, when I was doing the exercise, this came up. And so it's one of those things that there's painful points that have occurred that you might be burying, but there's something that's coming out of that. There's a value that you have that's driving you. And if you don't do the work, you're not going to know. And so this is the issue with a lot of people, is they're just going through life blindly looking like a zombie because they have these values that they think is theirs, but it's not truly theirs. Somebody else has forced that value into your head, and you're looking, you're like, that's not who I am. That's not me and whatnot. And so it's one of those things that this other quote that really, really sticks out and it resonates because it is powerful. And so the quote is, it is, in most cases, anyone can imitate your business. And it's true. Think about that. Think about how many iterations that we have of a certain business, and there's different variations towards it, but it's the same thing. And so that's the thing. People can imitate a business very easily, but nobody can imitate your business if it's built based on your story. When your values infuse in your business, you've given a special life to your creation. And so that is something to be mindful about, that your story is your story. And it's not going to be the ability for somebody to imitate your business if your business is infused with your story, infused with who you are. And that's what's driving it, is your story, those foundational values that nobody else can steal, nobody else can take from you, and nobody can implement it because that's your story. Nobody else can copy that. They can lie and say it is their story, but if it's not their story, it's going to come out at the end that they're lying. And so it's one of those things that it's just something to be mindful about. And it's a powerful thing to think about it, that it's your story. And so what separates you from everybody else? What's your uniqueness? What values, what story is fueling your foundational values, is fueling what you do as a business owner or a team leader? If you don't own a business, then maybe you're a leader in a business. So that's going to be a driving force. And so those are just some things to really consider. And then I did talk about another exercise. It's called the 3 most important questions. And that's something that's very in depth, and it makes you really look at the end goals for yourself, not the mean goals, but the end goals. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want your legacy to be? And what type of life do you want to live? A life that's true to yourself. And so this is something that I had talked today during my presentation, was these 3 most important questions. If you are running a business and you have employees, this is powerful for you as a business owner and working with individuals. But it's one of those things that it's just not a normal process. It's not a normal everyday operation that we're used to. It's getting under the surface and going deeper, and it's getting to the heart of the person. But that can be tough for people because some people haven't done the work to be able to connect with people. Some people haven't done the work to just be mindful about building connections, building relationships. And that's when I look at it, the 4 foundational values for myself and what drives me in regards to the businesses that I'm working in and the businesses that I'm bringing up and the coaching piece and whatnot is, for myself, it's love, growth, connections, and relationships. And so those are my big 4 that drives me, but it took some time to figure those out. And so I'm grateful for getting into the world of personal development, because that's brought me into reading certain books. And the one book that I've talked about quite a bit lately is The Buddha and the Badass. And so it's a very powerful book. It's very impactful. And if you're looking to bring a big change in your life and in your business, there's a lot of exercises in here that are very potent and very powerful. But I also tell people too that you have to have done the work. You have to have worked on yourself. You have to work on your mind, because if you haven't done that, the stuff that's talked about is not going to stick. And so that's the thing, that it's the caveat here, that you have to do the work. It's not easy, but it's worth it to get good at. And so it's just some things to think about, some things to consider. For me, I've seen big things taking place, big things that are moving and shaking. And so I've got to give a shout out to a good friend of mine, Garrett Goggins. I was listening to his latest episode on his podcast, and it's just a beautiful thing to see the growth that has taken place for him, to hear the growth in himself as a host and a individual that's running a podcast. So it's a beautiful thing to see. It's a beautiful thing to see growth taking place in a lot of people's lives that I know. And another one I have to give a shout out is my co-host on the Journey Beyond Divorce, Marion Wilson. She's done a lot. The growth that's taken place, it's huge, and it's phenomenal. And I enjoy seeing that, because as long as I've known her, just different things that she's doing, different things that she's bringing into play, and just the progression and the changes that are taking place for her, it's huge. And I'm excited just to be part of her journey and watch her grow and watch the progression take place, just because it's exciting to see people win. It's exciting to see people create progression and growth. And so that's just the importance of looking at who you surround yourself with. So like I said, I've got a couple of different things that if you're interested on getting the information, send me a private message, send me a message. More than willing to share the information with you to help you out so you can grow and you can do big things for yourself and start making the progression that I know you want to make. So other than that, I love you guys. I'll catch you guys later. It's already after midnight here, so we are Tuesday morning, which is awesome. So other than that, I'll catch you guys later. All right, peace.